See?
Hey, Zavi, congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Amber, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Good. I don't think I've seen you in person since Velocity, so.
I know, it's been a while. I haven't seen many people in person.
Right, pandemic and all.
Yeah.
Yep. Patrick, I saw you on the street today. I don't know if you saw me.
I did not. Sorry, I missed you.
No, it's fine. You were crossing the street with Jess at Queen and Orange.
A rare lunchtime outing for us both.
I love that. I love that for both of you. Okay. So we've got our panelists. We've got a fair group of attendees, most of whom appear to be relevant to items that appear on the agenda. Want to briefly shout out Chris, who's the correspondent for LNP, just because, of course, certain someones have been beating up on the media again this week for totally unknown reasons, and just want to shout out how important it is that we do have a local paper of record to one keep record, and also to hold us accountable and to get information out to the public at large. I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 council members. I think that's the best that we are going to do this evening. If everybody will bear with me for approximately 45 seconds, hopefully maybe less, we'll get started.
Pete tonight?
Say that again, Bernie?
I said no Pete tonight?
No Pete tonight, and no Janet. And we'll do that in the roll call.
Okay.
Pardon me. I have 6:33 p.m. So I'm going to go ahead and call the 10th meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster to order. I'm your City Council President, Ismail Smith-Waddell. We'll begin with a roll call. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz. Mr. Garcia Molina.
Here.
Mr. Soto. And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. Councilors Diaz and Soto are excused this evening. I have some things in my report. I'll start at the top of the meeting because I got to do this briefly in the committee meeting, but not while he was on the call. I'm going to take a moment out to embarrass Councilor Garcia Molina, who is newlywed, and I think that deserves our congratulations, and at the very least, a digital round of applause. So let's give Zavi a good clap.
Thank you.
I think that's really wonderful. And I'll just say, like, in the kind of weird sort of Damocles nightmare that the last month or so has been, knowing that was happening was a particular bright spot. So thank you. And so congratulations to you and Jared. I'm getting a little bit of an internet connection instability. Can somebody confirm that I can still be seen and or heard?
I can hear you. I can see you're frozen sometimes, but
okay.
Audio is good.
Okay. Give it a second to catch up. See if I can do anything about that. Okay. I am going to proceed because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do anything about the internet connection. Somebody let me know if I can no longer be heard. Let's go to approval of the minutes for the October 27th, 2020 meeting. Mr. Harris.
I need a motion, actually.
Oh, yes, of course. I'll hear a motion.
Approve.
Second.
We
Thank
have
you.
a motion and a second. Any comments from council? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. Do we have any, Mr. Harris?
I'm sorry, no, we do not, Mr. President.
Okay. That brings us to our first public comment period, reserved for those persons who have contacted the city clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address city council. Do we have any tonight, Mr. Harris?
We do not, Mr. President.
Okay, that's going to move us directly into reports requested by council. We're going to begin with the Central Market Trust annual report. I see Brenda in the meeting. So Ms. Strazo, if you would go ahead and add Brenda.
Brenda, should I be adding Bruce as well, or is he just watching?
Yes, you can add Bruce as well, please.
Okay, we have Brenda and Bruce in the meeting. Good evening, Brenda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm actually just going to go ahead and turn it over to you and turn off my video, since that appears to be messing with my internet connection. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
All right, great. And I am going to, can I share my screen? Is that allowed?
Ms. Strazo, can you facilitate that if there's anything that needs to happen?
Should be able to, but let me double check. Been having weird. Let me check something else.
I have an option too. I'm going to give it a shot here.
Oh yeah, just do that because you should be able to. Perfect. There you go.
Okay, great. All right, thanks everyone. So yes, my name is Brenda Busher. I am the chair of the Central Market Trust, and my vice chair of the board, Bruce Martin, is also gonna split this with me towards the end. So first, I just wanna remind everyone that the Central Market Trust is run by a board of 13 volunteers. We have an executive committee, including Bruce and myself. We have a great team of volunteers and then staff that have been with us since last year. So Mary, Danielle, and Kathy are all returning staff. And during COVID times, especially important to also shout out our custodial staff and our door monitors, who are new to us. They are staff that have been around, I think, longer than we maybe thought that they might, but they're the ones who greet you at market, make sure that we don't have too many people in the building. So our report today is going to focus on quite a bit on COVID-19. Like everyone, we've been dealing with that at Central Market. So we'll talk about that, how we've continued to serve the community and provide a source of fresh food, how we've supported our businesses all along and now kind of through the recovery period. We'll give you a financial update, and then Bruce will take over and talk a little bit about looking ahead towards our strategic plan that we finished right before COVID in January this year. Our top priority has been operating safely. So making sure that everybody who's in that building, we have a lot of essential workers there, and all the people who come to shop there are safe with us. So in early March, we developed a plan, and then pretty quickly that progressed towards social distancing. So we did things like taking out the eating area so people weren't staying around, people were getting their groceries and going. And then towards more aggressively limiting our capacity. So we added the door monitors. So we made sure that people can still social distance while they're in the building, and also made sure that we have enough space for our employees to be social distance while they're working there. We also, at that time in March, mid-March, when we went into the red phase, limited our Saturday hours. So we were only open Tuesdays and Fridays for about 6 weeks. And that was, again, just to try to limit the exposure while making sure that people could still get their groceries. In April, we first implemented a face mask policy. We try to be right in line with what the CDC recommends, what the Department of Health recommends. So we don't wait for requirements. We try to be right in line with what the science says. So that was when we first required face masks for people in the building. And just, I think like lots of businesses, our staff really dealt with some some very dicey situations, and have just done a stellar job of trying to keep everyone safe despite some very not nice people. Saturday hours came back in early May, and then in September, we went back to normal hours. We changed our normal so that our hours are now consistent. Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, we're open the same hours. That has been something that people have been asking for a while. I think standholders voted for that policy. They strongly supported it. And then we also like that consistency for our customers as well. So once we knew we could operate safely, we were really thinking about food security. So especially in the red phase, grocery stores looked a little dicey. We wanted to make sure that we were still there. We had more than half of our stands stay open the entire time to provide those staple items. We focused on really promoting what people could come in and get every day. We made sure that we were promoting what was open every day. We also made the decision early on that we were going to continue to promote all of our businesses, whether they were open in market or not. So our communications director did an incredible job of pulling together all of the options that people had. We had 29 businesses that had pickup, delivery, call ahead. So we were compiling all of those options every week and making sure that people knew about them. And then we've also, our market manager has worked with the city on the street dining areas that are now available around market to enable those restaurants to be open outdoors. So that was thinking about the community for our businesses. We focused on telling their stories during this time. So we went out to people's farms and to their businesses, wherever they were serving people, and featured their stories. We did quarterly surveys on how they were doing, what they needed from us. And the main thing that came back was that they were really just concerned about financial sustainability. So we reduced our rent by 50% during that lockdown period, April through June, and then it was 25% reduced for July through September. And now we're back to kind of full rent again, but that was really important to us to be able to help them through that time. We've had a flexible attendance policy since the pandemic started. We didn't want people to have to come to work if they felt sick. So that was the main reason for that. And now it's also important for their financial health. Some people really still can't afford to be open the entire market day, every day. So they might be closing early, and that is okay with us for now. We're continuing to reassess that every quarter. And we've just focused in our promotion on having a safe environment. We learned from our customers that that was the most important thing to them. They weren't going to shop at market if they didn't feel safe there. So we've been focusing on how to make sure that our customers do feel like they can come back. And we've been pretty successful with that. So this is our traffic. One of the things about having monitors is that we can monitor how many people come in the building. So we actually track our traffic every market day. And so this is going back to May when we started actually doing this. And we have had a pretty consistent increasing trend with market traffic over time. So the yellow arrow is when we went to the yellow zone, or the yellow phase. Green is when we went to the green phase. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about COVID. I'm going to kind of transition towards finance now. So we talked about this last time. We transitioned our rent structure. This is the first year of having rent based on square footage, which is just a more fair and equitable way to do it compared to linear foot rent, which we used to do. We were very conservative with our budget this year. So we knew that to be able to reduce the rent for the standholders, we were going to have to be very careful about what we spent. And so we did end up between some other sources of income that I'll get to, and that very conservative spending coming out ahead at the end of the year, which is important just because we don't know what's going to come in the future. So that's important for us. We finished our last year of the Raise the Roof campaign pledges this year. So people who had 5-year pledges finished out their pledges this year. And we have continued to do pretty well with our information stand, generating some additional income, even though it was entirely closed in the last quarter of our fiscal year. We've also worked on strengthening our fundraising. So we brought in little over $16,000 last year at the Extraordinary Give, which was an increase from the previous year. And that's just something we're going to continue to build so that we can just make sure that we're sustainable for the future. So our COVID impact, like I mentioned, we had reduced our rent in the last quarter of the fiscal year. We did some fundraising specifically on that. We featured our business stories about how these contributions were going towards helping those businesses, offsetting that rent. And we had a good response to that fundraising campaign. We also, like many businesses, have had extra expenses. So we've been adding signage, and those additional staff members have increased our costs as well. We did have a successful application for a PPP loan, so that has supported our staff costs during that time as well. We had some good opportunities to partner with some local businesses. So I just wanted to mention these were some opportunities we had to fundraise, businesses that wanted to donate a portion of what they were doing towards Central Market. And those have also been some good new opportunities for us. And now I just want to turn it over to Bruce Martin. So I am in my last year of 6 years being on Central Market's board. So Bruce is the vice chair right now, but he is going to take over as the chair next year, so in July. And he is going to talk about our strategic plan and looking ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Can everyone hear me? We started working on the strategic plan in the early summer of 2019. We hired a consulting firm to help us, Collab, and they came in and did 2 background things first to make sure that we were prepared to start the process. The first thing that they did was prepare a sustainability report for us, which was really doing an internal review of the trust and the market operations, identify strengths, weaknesses, things that we were cognizant of. And then the other major report they did for us was a stakeholders report, where they interviewed standholders, they interviewed customers, they interviewed restaurateurs, and asked them a varied number of questions about the market, the operations, and what those people thought about the work that we were doing on the Central Market Trust. So by fall, we started meeting to discuss these things, and like a traditional strategic plan, we identified what you see here: a vision, a mission, and some core values. And so our vision is the thing that we're aiming towards, that we want to continue to keep our eyes on, so that the Central Market remains a thriving, welcoming market that nourishes the community. And you'll notice that there's some vagueness to that, but because what constitutes thriving, what constitutes welcoming, how are we nourishing them? So it's the combination of food, it's the combination of community, all of these things coming together to make it a true public space, a public market that everybody in our community feels welcome in. So our mission then as the trust is to make sure that we're creating an environment that supports those local businesses that operate within the market, and that we celebrate what's unique to Lancaster, which is our fresh food, our creativity, and all of those things. And of course, at the core of all of this are the community relationships that we have, that we're providing quality products for all of the people who shop in the market. And the iconic landmark itself, speaks for itself. We have to be good stewards of preserving and maintaining our beautiful market building for future generations. Next slide.
Sorry.
So as a result of doing that initial work, we came up with 3 strategic initiatives, each one that has some separate goals, and underneath those goals, some ideas that we have for how we can achieve those goals. And for tonight, we're just going to really talk about the initiatives and a little bit about some of the goals. I'm not going to read them verbatim here. Everyone can see them. But our strategic initiative is that notion of a thriving market. What is a thriving market? We're looking for a market where the people, the relationships with all the people, and there's lots of moving pieces here. There's standholders, there's customers, there's businesses that are located in and around downtown and around the market that are in part impacted by what the market does. And all of these things have to work smoothly together for the market to be thriving and successful. Our physical environment is important. We need to make sure that just as we did during the COVID pandemic, that people feel safe coming there, that they're comfortable there, that when they walk in the doors, you know, it's a warm environment that they want to be in. It's important that we work and recognize all the stakeholders that we have, as well as our own internal operations, the board members who volunteer their time to the trust, the many volunteers that we have who staff the information stand, who work on various projects, and then working together as a group to make sure that the market remains viable. Next slide. One of the things you'll see is these all kind of intertwine with each other because this one is community engagement and collaboration. And we've already talked a little bit about the idea of to be thriving, we need to be engaging and working interactively with the rest of our community. But here in this particular initiative, we're talking more specifically about what we can do to build partnerships with other organizations to meet strategic goals. And one that council might be most interested in is number 4, which is this idea of making sure that food is accessible to the community. We talk a lot about, and we're all aware that there's food deserts within Lancaster City. So we think about how are ways that we can work with other community organizations to make connections to this central market, which has fresh, healthy food available for folks. And how can we make sure that everybody is able to access what the market has to offer? We also talk about events and recognizing that the central market is still one of the major draws to downtown. So it draws visitors from around the country. It draws residents from throughout the city and the county. And so we understand our role in working with others to make sure that it remains that kind of an anchor space in the downtown environment. And then the next slide. Tradition and growth. How do we balance those things? Sometimes tradition is different for different people. And what we want to recognize is the fact that we have a lot of citizens who are multi-generational families who've lived in Lancaster and Lancaster County, who have come with their grandmothers to market as children. But we also have new families coming to Lancaster, moving here all the time, people with diverse backgrounds. And we need to make sure that every single group represented in our community is able to become familiar with what the central market has to offer, and that they feel comfortable and that becomes part of their tradition as a family, that they find the things that they want. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to recruit diverse and talented standholders who reflect that diversity. We want to make sure that we have the products that people want to buy, the things that they need to cook the cuisine that their family likes. We want to work closely with some other organizations to make sure that we're providing the ability for businesses to develop, the idea of developing entrepreneurs within the market. And we're looking for some ways to do that. And of course, all of this requires funding. So, you know, we're going to, as Brenda stated before, we're going to continue all of our efforts to make sure that we're raising the funds that we need to execute the plans that we're setting forward. And I think that is all for me. So I'll turn it back to you, Brenda. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, that's it from us. I do also want to give a shout out to Councillor Bakay, who joined our board this year, and we are very excited to have that relationship with with City Council, and glad to have her.
Great. Well, thank you to both of you. Councilors, do we have any questions for Brenda or Bruce while they're on the call?
I don't have any questions, but I do also want to give a shout out to the staff of Central Market, who've been, not only the greeters, who have been out there, like Brenda said, a lot longer than I think originally anticipated, but our market manager and marketing guru, who do just such an excellent job of keeping everything running. It's not easy dealing with people, all kinds of people, standholders, the public. It's a big job, so we appreciate them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Bakay. Brenda, Bruce, any other members of the Market Trust who may be watching now or later, thank you for everything that you do. Central Market, of course, is a hub and a fixture in downtown Lancaster. And it's sort of difficult to imagine what the center of Lancaster would be in a number of ways without it. So thank you for taking the time to make this this annual presentation again. And please come back, and we look forward to hearing from you next year or maybe even sooner.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks y'all so much. Now we have the Neighborhood Leaders Academy. We have the student reports. Is Millsy on the call? Let's go ahead and add Millsy. We'll start there.
Yep, I will add her.
Oh, and I think you could probably just go ahead and add the folks who have NLA behind their name.
Yep. I did
And
that.
Carl Patterson also.
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Harris.
And Carl Patterson also.
Oh, yes. Oh, hey, Carl.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, been a while, Carl. You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's a pleasure to see you all. It's lovely to see your faces.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Patrick, I just want to compliment you on that beard. It's looking very strong. So, yeah, thank you very much for your time this evening. We're really happy to be here virtually. I want to just check that we have everybody, I think, is here. Yeah, Destiny. I'm now puzzling through all of our faces.
Do we
Ashley,
have Millsy on the call?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me add her.
And can our students do a little bit of a sound check? Maybe a hello, good evening, and your class here, or your
Yeah, we'll run them off. That's a good idea, Carl. Let's start with Sandra. Sandra, can you unmute yourself and say hello?
Hi.
Okay, we've got Sandra. Julia, go ahead.
Hi.
Okay, we've got Julia. Destiny.
Hello.
Hey, Destiny. Ashley.
Hi.
Hey, Ashley. And Rose.
Hi.
Hey, Rose. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Carl, Millsy, were we anticipating more than 5 students?
Nope. We're good.
Okay. Please take it away.
Sure thing. And I will share my screen. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, tonight we're giving an update on the Neighborhood Leaders Academy at JP McCaskey. First, I would like to just thank the Lancaster County Community Foundation for funding this year and the projects, and of course also the School District of Lancaster for making this academy work. The Neighborhood Leaders Academy students started with in-person sessions this year in January, actually. And here are all of our smiling faces at our very first session together. I think some of you will remember an early session where we were exposing the students to how City Council works. Of course, due to COVID-19, we had to transition online into Zoom, much like everyone in Lancaster, and held sessions through the summer to plan projects to help strengthen community and mostly also respond to the pandemic. And before we get into those, I would like to ask Destiny Ponce to tell a little bit about the Neighborhood Leaders Academy from the students' perspectives. Destiny, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
So we had a few of the students tell us what we thought about the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, and this is what we came up with. It helps do something I want in the community, supporting neighborhoods, helps people, helps the environment, and helps everyone. Dedicated group of young adults working to improve our community and learning how to be successful citizens. Teaching that all people, no matter how young we are, have roles to play in leading the community. Brings us individuals together, brings the entire city together. We met the mayor, chief of police, city council, and it showed us how we can connect with all of you. And intergenerational leadership, no matter how old we are the community, and we can actually do something a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. One of our, it was actually our last in-person session. We were able to connect with the community and police working group. Ashley, you want to talk a little bit about that day?
This is important for the police to hear the community and the voices of the youth. There were all kinds of discussions about the aspects of policing and community because we came from such different backgrounds. It's interesting to meet the chief of police. I personally actually haven't had the best experience with police officers, and it was a nice, refreshing time for me because I actually had the ability to understand police officers, although sometimes, they give off the impression of being completely different. They are, in fact, human. Past experiences with police officers haven't been pleasant, and it's been scary. It's good to interact with police officers in a different way and trying to make sense and understanding how policing and community can come together. It was interesting hearing about the police cadet program and learning from the chief. It was interesting hearing from the leadership about how they're here to help us support the community and do policing correctly.
Yeah, and it was a really cool session where we got to kind of interact with the community and police working group, talk a little bit about, as Ashley said, policing in Lancaster's community. Millsy, I wasn't sure if you wanted to add at all some of, there were a bunch of whiteboards and data collected from the session, but yeah, no pressure.
Yep. Am I on the, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we had several through, first of all, good evening, council, and thank you for the opportunity once again to share some really fantastic work that's happening in our department. And what an incredible privilege it was to have our second session with JP McCaskey students. It's been an amazing journey, and part of that journey is really leveraging not only the curriculum of Neighborhood Leaders Academy, but really tying into additional priorities that the city has, and having the opportunity to present those programs and initiatives to the students and receive their feedback was really important. And one of those meetings was the Community and Police Working Group. You can actually see their responses. We hosted 4 meetings. They're all located on the City of Lancaster's site. And very similar to the comments you just heard, it was really about the relationship of what youth in our community, very similar to adults, feel towards police, and the uncomfortableness and the uneasiness at times around police. And the meeting really discussed the importance of not only understanding what youth needs are and understanding, the police work, but also it really opened up dialogue for police officers, really the chief that was present there, and our community engagement police officer, Sergeant Morant, that was to listen to what the feelings of our youth are here in the city. So really important. And you can see those comments on the Lancaster City's website. So really appreciative of the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Milsey. Yeah, and I know it was a really rewarding day for most of the students, in that we also got to tour the police bureau, the police station, which was everyone's first time in there, and also my first time in the further extension of the building. So it's fun for all of us. But on to projects. Sandra is our photographer extraordinaire. Look for her on the cover of Time in the near future. Would you talk a little bit about our first project and what's going on in this photo?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Carl said, I had the honor of photographing this event. On Essential Kids Project Day, students were doing a lot of things, which I will get into a little bit later. This project for us as students gave us the ability to connect and unify with our senior citizen community. In this photo, prior to what you see in there, students were able to design letters for our senior community and write letters as well.
Yeah, and we got those printed. I know it was an activity of the day, signing and doing some extra personal messages in them. Rose, would you share a little bit about our activities that day and what we were able to put together?
Yeah, so through the Essentials Kids project, we put together over 400 kits with hand soap, toothbrushes, and other essential items. And we gave them to senior citizens at Church Street Towers. And the Essentials Kids project was something that had us contributing in a really real way to the people of Lancaster City most affected by the pandemic, so seniors, and specifically low-income seniors. And we knew we were doing something really impactful, but we never could have anticipated the level of need that there was for the very basic items that we were giving out. So there was a man who walked by and all he asked for was a bar of soap because that's what he really needed. And it was heartbreaking, but unifying, and a true testament to the impact of NLA. And it was humbling and unifying, and it was a really good way to connect with each other as students throughout COVID and with the city at large.
Thank you, Rose. Back to Sandra. I'm going to talk about these beautiful photos that you took.
Yeah. So in the morning, students arrived around 8 to 9, around that time frame. In the morning, this was like the first part of everything that we did that day. It was distribution, and every table was organized from census information in bags, toiletries, books, and a lot of other things to get our senior citizens and workers through their days.
And I think we might have 2 more slides of photos for you.
Yeah. And a little bit about the packing process. Like Rose said, we packed around 400 bags for our senior residents located in Lancaster City. We made sure to obviously social distance because COVID-19 was spreading around at the time. Our lines were 6 feet apart, and everyone worked really hard to get these bags packed as soon as possible. But yeah. And then delivery to me, and I'm sure a lot of people in this meeting, it was the most exciting part because we were able to put our plan in action and put it in a bag and place it on trucks to help other people. yeah, I think it felt good to make someone else's day. But yeah.
Thank you, Sandra. And Julia, you're here. Could you share a little bit about the tree planting project, and then I'll also add on at the end there.
What we are now in the process of planning is the tree planting memorial. We're sharing messages on plaques by 4 trees through a poem about graduation, lives lost, and community coming together. It's going to be a remembrance that memorializes the perspectives of student leaders during this time. It'll bring beautification of the city and the campus at JP McCaskey. It's been a hard time, it's been a challenge, but we'll get through it. At the end of the day, people in the future are not going to understand how serious and how big of a change COVID-19 made in our daily lives. Like school, jobs, housing, it's all changed. It's a good way to acknowledge the change and support the environment and community.
Yeah, and we had originally planned for this to be a fall planting, but unfortunately, 2 vital persons in the project on the tree sourcing pipeline and even cementing the plaques into the ground are either on sick leave or hospitalized at present moment. So we're wishing them speedy recovery and are looking forward to planning this date in the spring per the Shade Tree Commission's discretion. One of the messages, though, one of the plaques is a poem that our very own poet here, Julia, came up with herself. So would you like to share that with us?
As thousands say their last goodbye, this tree grows. But how will we remember this time? Death, masks, loneliness, anger, or the love that we've all shared, and the new beginnings, just like this tree.
Thank you, Julia. And thank you very much also to everyone for their time tonight. We'd love to ask of any questions from council. Yes, you're all invited to our socially distant tree planting in the spring.
I'll just say that anytime I get the chance to speak with students, particularly from JP McCaskey, I'm always blown away. And I don't know why, but pleasantly surprised. Just you all make me so hopeful for the future, and in a time when we need a lot of hope, that means a lot. So thank you. And your service projects were absolutely wonderful, and how thoughtful all of you are.
So I would like to say, being a mother and a grandmother of students that go to McCaskey, I am so incredibly proud of the work that you guys have done. So bravo.
Yeah, I too am blown away, even just by your presentation today. It was so smooth. The poetry in it, the photography, everything honestly is like high quality, which also just makes me really proud. Just your message of bringing more young people into politics, like that's what I'm all about. And I'm just incredibly proud that you're the future of our city, and we're here to support you 100% of the way. Congrats on everything.
And we're looking forward to Ashley's bid at the presidency down the line. Not sure what year that's going to work, but
I'm glad you said that, Carl. Congratulations for going through this program as a former McCaskey or as a McCaskey alumni. It's super exciting to see this program and all the work that you guys are putting in, but don't let this stop your engagement. So throughout the rest of your high school career and beyond, continue to be engaged, continue to participate, and run for something. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. I really can't add in any meaningful way to what my council colleagues have already said, but thank you for taking the time out on a Tuesday evening to come present to us and to the city. You are quite literally the future, and it's looking pretty bright. Carl, Millsy, do you have anything else?
Thank you for your time tonight. It's been absolutely lovely connecting with all your faces.
If I may, President Smith-Waddell.
Of course, Mayor.
I just want to say thank you. We have had as a priority to engage the young people of the city in the work of the city, and that is how JPNLA started. And I appreciate the leadership from Carl and Millsy, of course, but this wouldn't have been possible without students like yourselves saying yes. Yes, you are up to learn a little bit more about the city that you live in, that you have a stake in. Even though you are not of age to vote yet, you will be very soon. And you live and contribute to our city. And to have you participate in this, I hope that you will continue to find ways to engage with the city and to tell us how we're doing, the places where we're falling short, the things that we're doing well, because your voices are critical as we continue to move forward. And you are our inaugural class, and you are the first class that has gone through this process with us, and we learned a lot from your involvement and participation in the projects that you did. And so the benefits organizationally to the city as well as to the community are very significant, and I hope you all feel incredibly proud of your efforts because this goes way beyond the projects that you did, but you really helped inform our Neighborhood Leaders Academy and ways to really substantively engage the young people of the city of Lancaster. Thank you.
And Sandra did get to vote this year, so that was very exciting. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you again, all.
Oh, Millsy, you're muted.
Go ahead, Millsy.
Just want to say thank you, and we are working on a 3rd and 4th round this year in partnership with Leadership Lancaster. So I don't want to forget, give a little shout out to Kate and team at Leadership Lancaster, as well as Erin Conahan and Mrs. Savage, who's been there pushing us all through, Destiny, Julia, Sandra. So really thankful with the partnership with School District of Lancaster, and we're really hopeful to start moving getting more JP McCaskey students into the NLA program. So thank you for the opportunity to share with you all.
Thank you, Millsy. Okay, I believe that brings us to reports of committees of council. And I believe our first committee on the docket is Public Safety. Councilor Garcia Molina.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee actually did not meet.
Okay, moving right along to the Public Works Committee, Councilor Soto. I'll be presenting on Councilor Soto's committee briefly. The Public Safety Committee did meet on Public Works Committee did meet on the evening of November 2nd, and they considered several items. The first of which was Administration Bill number 13/2020, which amended the outdoor retail and dining ordinances to extend the expiration of those ordinances. So previously they had been, you'll hear more about this, but previously they had been set to expire at the end of the year. I think because we were optimistic about how the pandemic would be managed, and now they are indefinite until we rejoin them. Administration resolution, until we come back to them rather. Administration resolution number 56, 2020, which would adopt the Vision Zero safety plan, and we'll be taking that up not at this meeting, but the November 24th regular meeting. Number 3 is Administration Bill number 15, which approved some money in Penvest financing for public works projects, and we'll have a first reading. This evening. And then Administration Resolution number 56, 2020, approving a multimodal program grant of $871,000, which will be considered as a resolution at tonight's meeting. And that really sort of covers what was discussed in the Public Works Committee. Economic Development, Councilor Arroyo.
Mr. President, our committee did not meet last Monday.
Okay. Finance Committee, Councilor Bakay.
Thank you. The Finance Committee did meet last Monday. We considered 2 resolutions that will be coming up on tonight's agenda. Resolution number 53, which has to do with financing project by the Lancaster Higher Education Authority, and resolution number 54 of 2020, which concerns selling our tax claims for this year, the next year, and the following year. And we will get into those when they come up on the agenda. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilor Bakay. Community Planning, Councilor Craig.
Good evening. Thank you, Council President. We had community planning met, and we had 3 items on the agenda. One being the review of the historical architectural review, recommendation of denial for 44 West Vine Street. The second is Resolution 55, 2020, approving application for a historical preservation grant. And the third item was Administration Bill number 14, a petition to rezone 213 College Avenue to high density residential. And those were the 3 items that we had on our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. That brings us to the Personnel Committee, which I will also be covering. There was one item discussed at the committee meeting, which was the nomination of Steve Hackett for appointment to the Lancaster City Planning Commission to complete the remainder of an unfinished term until December 31st, 2022. So actually right now, I'll go ahead and hear a motion to appoint Mr. Hackett to the Planning Commission.
Motion to approve that appointment, Mr. President.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments from the public. Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. All right. So congratulations to Mr. Hackett. That brings us into our legislative agenda under heading A. First is the Historic District. Mr. Harris, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. President. Considering the following application recommendation from the Historical Architectural Review Board for improvements to a property within the historic district. We have one this evening. David Boaz, owner of 44 East Vine Street, requests replacement of cedar roof shingles with new asphalt shingles. And that application was recommended for denial by the Historical Architectural Review Board.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. I will hear, I guess we start with a motion. I want to remind everybody, because it was recommended for denial, we need to be particularly clear in which direction our motion is going. So a motion to approve the recommendation would be a motion to deny the application. So let's be sure to be explicit if anybody has a motion that they would like to make.
Council President, I'd like to make a motion to uphold the HARB's recommendation.
Okay, Councilor Craig has made a motion to uphold the HARB's recommendation to deny the application. Is there a second to the motion on the floor?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So let's get into discussing this. I see Mr. Boaz is on the call. Ms. Strazo, would you go ahead and add them to the meeting? And is there anybody here to represent the HARB or the city administration, the historic preservation specialist, et cetera, who should also be added to the meeting? If so, go ahead and raise your hand. Click the little raise hand button at the bottom of your screen so that you can be added. Anybody?
Ms. Dels was here.
I can actually add Chris.
Yeah, go ahead and add Chris. Thank you. That's Mr. Christopher Delps, the director of the Community Planning and Economic Development Department.
All right, they're both.
Great. So we have, technically speaking, this is your part of the store, Councilor Craig. So I'll let you go from here.
Thank you. In consideration with the experts on the HARB and their recommendation for denial, I would like to know if there were any other options that Mr. Boas had looked into other than asphalt.
Appreciate the question, Councilor Craig. I know that we discussed this a little bit at the committee at our last meeting. I believe we should add Douglas Smith and Suzanne Stallings as well. I think that they spoke to this matter at the last meeting, so perhaps we can revisit that.
I see Mr. Smith on the call. I do not see Ms. Stallings on the call.
Okay, in the documentation from what I read, I only seen two quotes, one for the cedar shingles and the other for the asphalt shingles, which is what the HARB is denying, which I agree with. I just wanted to know, was there any other material that was looked at prior to Mr. Boas putting in his application?
Councilor Craig, not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Boas, would you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Hey, good evening. I think you can actually answer Councilor Craig's question directly.
Thank you.
Yes. In the paperwork that I submitted, it had regular asphalt shingles at a cost of $5,475. And then it had slate line designer shingles at a cost of $9,175. Then the cedar shingle roof estimate was $13,450. And then I also had an estimate included for a standing seam metal roof at $13,265. So the only two that possibly HARB would approve of were both well over twice the cost of an asphalt shingle.
I'm sorry, walk me through that again from the beginning. So the asphalt shingle roof had a cost of how much?
The asphalt shingle was $5,475.
5,000, and then we go to 9,000 for slate?
It's not slate, it's slate line designer asphalt.
Okay.
It looks like slate.
So, and then you investigated cedar, and then what was the last material, just so I'm clear?
The last material was the metal roof.
Okay, and those both came in around $13,000, is that correct?
Over 13,000, yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Certainly.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions for Mr. Boas. Does anyone else have any questions?
If I may, Councilor?
Of course.
Go ahead, Councilor Roy.
Mr. Boas, out of those materials that you had shopped around for prices, did the historical board mention of any other materials that you could potentially use as other options that might be in lower price?
They did not. They basically said when the house was redone They put cedar shingles on, therefore you have to replace it with cedar shingles, no questions.
Thank you. And maybe this is a question for, well, for either Mr. Boas or Mr. Delfs or Mr. Smith. In regards to, I believe the HARB recommended, I guess, is outlining that cedar shingles is the recommendation for a property in that area. Can we speak to the safety of using those types of shingles that are wood versus asphalt if there was a fire that were to take place in a home? Is one safer than the other?
Just to circle back to the question, Councilor Arroyo and Councilor Craig, about the materials, and then I'll come back to the safety. I recall from the committee meeting that the gentleman from the HARB did speak that the historical appropriate material could be both the cedar shingles or possibly the tin, I think, based upon the research that was done. I am not sure whether the HARB would have accepted the tin as an alternative to the cedar shingles, but they did say that that was a potentially a historically appropriate alternative. I understand that that's at that higher cost level. So maybe that doesn't help us in this particular regard if we're concerned about cost. In terms of safety, I'm not particularly aware of a safety difference in the two materials. Douglas may want to weigh in on that as well. I think the only thing that we really spoke about at the committee the last time around was the maintenance that was required and the level of longevity. And the gentleman from the HARB said that if cedar shingles are maintained properly, that they can last for a very long time, for a duration quite a bit longer than asphalt shingles. He did acknowledge that the maintenance can be more difficult on the cedar shingles. I think Mr. Boas spoke about some moss and other problems, but there was some discussion about treatment options of the cedar shingles to avoid the moss, et cetera. But I don't think we spoke about the safety difference. And unfortunately, I'm not aware of like any research or track record of which material is safer. I would say by nature of wood versus asphalt, obviously wood is probably a little more flammable, but I don't know if there's really any evidence of there being like a distinct fire risk difference based on our evidence in recent years. We'd have to look into that further.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. President, one more question. As far as Mr. Delf's energy efficiency with, do we know as far as comparison with the two different types, is there one that's better or not in regards to energy efficiency?
That's a great question. Douglas, do you happen to know that one? I think you have a little more background on these specifics lately, anyway, than I have.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not something I can weigh in on at this moment, but you've got me very curious.
Councilor Craig, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
To be honest, I feel somewhat ill-equipped to balance the safety concerns, the historical concerns, and the cost concerns without someone on deck with the relevant without someone with the relevant expertise. Though I'll say aloud, not by way of making a decision. I'll say aloud that a $7,000 to $8,000 difference in cost is, as somebody who's like actively trying to remodel a home, is not negligible. Can somebody tell me what year the HARB was established off the top of their head? Somebody else talk. I'll Google it.
I think it was 1960s.
I want to say 62 or 63, but this, Bernie, if you don't know this piece of trivia, then I don't know.
Yeah, I'm knee jerk. I'm thinking 68, but I think it's 1960s.
Okay, but and so I guess a relevant question for me, again, not by way of a decision, and again with your consent, Councilor Craig. Mr. Boas, were you aware that you were moving into the Harb district when you purchased the home?
I was aware that it was considered an historic district, but it was never explained to me by my realtor what that actually meant. I just thought, oh, well, that's cool. That means that everybody will be keeping their houses nice.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. That's all I had, Councilor Craig. Thank you.
Thank you. So where do we go from here? I don't have any further questions.
If I could just add that I think that the questions from counselors regarding the energy efficiency and fire and those things are good questions. And I think that the heart of this is to the Harb recommendation as it relates to the Historic Commission, and that is how narrow this decision is, and certainly weighing the financial implications is part and parcel of that. And as we heard in the committee meeting from Harb's perspective, this is about the specific district and the historical characteristics and qualities of this district. And, you know, recognizing that Mr. Boas has lived in this home for 30 years. It's an owner-occupied home and has been a resident in the Harb district for that period of time is certainly part of the decision-making factors, you know, for all of you to make tonight as it relates to this decision, as it relates to the historical architecture and historic integrity of the body of properties that make up the Harb in this neighborhood.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, Councilor Craig, just a final
Go ahead.
comment. Yeah, I appreciate the intention of the Harb in preserving the historical character of our city. I think while this decision is very narrow in the sense of does it meet those historical requirements, I do think that balancing the quality, energy efficiency, cost, safety, those are all valid points to make sure that we're prioritizing in the correct order, to make sure that we're not putting a undue financial hardship on our residents. So I do think that having that information moving forward through different decisions that are going to come up in the future is going to be very important, because while I do appreciate historical architecture in our city, we do have to take into consideration building a resilient city at the same time. So I just, and those other factors play a major part in that. So I just wanted to just make that comment there.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Councilor Arroyo. I think that certainly the financial implications are definitely in the purview of council as it relates to this decision. And if there are going to be discussions as it relates to energy efficiency and, you know, the resilience and safety, then we need to provide Harb with the legislative authority to take those considerations into account as they are making recommendations to council.
So, Councilor Craig, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
It seems that without formal declaration, what we have here is an appeal to a denial of alteration on the basis of economic hardship, at least in the terms defined in the ordinance. Is there anybody that thinks that I'm wrong on that front? That's basically what we have.
President with Waddell, if I may, there, for an appeal based on economic hardship, there has to be a proof of and paperwork regarding economic hardship that has to be submitted.
Well, indeed, and I think what I'm wondering aloud is this: and yes, there's like I suppose there's like an unwritten expectation that all residents of the city of Lancaster, especially when they seek to make alterations, construction, or demolition, be intimately familiar with the ordinance related to that. I think that fundamentally that's an unreasonable expectation for the average homeowner, just with everything else that's going on in their life. And so a question that I have generally that I think extends beyond this specific case is, and I think I know the answer, when Mr. Boas said to the members of the HARB, well, you see, it's an additional $8,000 to do it this way. Did anybody say, well, if you plan to appeal to council, then that's a question of economic hardship, and these are the steps you need to make that kind of appeal? I have like a genuine question as to whether Mr. Boas was adequately equipped by the relevant body to come plead his case before council. Does that make sense? And I'm not sure that I feel that he was, especially with the knowledge that, like, I mean, good God, I've been doing this for 3 years, and it's quite literally my sworn responsibility. And from time to time, I look at the ordinances, and it's difficult for me to determine exactly what it is that I'm supposed to do. And I lean heavily on persons like Mr. Delfs, Mr. Smith, Mr. Hopkins, and Mr. Harris to provide illumination on that. So just because it's an opportunity, if we have this bigger question of, are our homeowners who live in the Harbin Historic District aware of and able to meet their responsibilities? Are the bodies, the HARB and the Historical Commission, because they are organs of city government, meeting the responsibility to adequately inform residents of their responsibilities in a given moment or with a given application?
Mr. President, if I may.
Of course.
To speak directly to your question, at least from the notes that I have received, Mr. Byler did say that he would be interested to see quotes from the metal roofing. So it seems that HARP actually did not have the opportunity to see the quotes themselves to be able to evaluate the pricing aspect of it, but it appears that they would be interested to later have a second discussion afterwards, at least from my notes, but I'm not as sure if he was informed as to follow-up process. But it does seem that questions regarding if quotes had been made and kind of what the economic evaluation of things was questioned. I don't believe that they had the proper information at the time.
I
So,
have something to add
of course.
to that, if I may. So I'm looking at the actual HARB application. It was completed by Mr. Boas, it appears. It has these quotes, these numbers that he's giving us this evening do appear in this document. So this is what the HARB saw.
Okay.
As far as what was discussed, I don't know, not being in the room. And this is not, this is related. I will also note that in the actual meeting notes, when Ms. Stallings gave her review of the property, her review stated, per the notes, that the cedar roof shingles that currently are on the home, they're a current existing feature, were not critical to maintaining the original historic appearance of a building that has been altered in other ways. And then they list a couple of ways that this building has also been altered. So I just wanted to get that in. We're kind of going off on a separate way, but I also wanted to mention that that is stated in Ms. Stallings' review and was considered by the HARB as well.
Thank you, Amanda. Well, I don't know where we go from here. I'm going to stand on the motion that I made.
So there is a motion on the floor to deny Mr. Boa's application. I
stand on my second with Councilor Craig. I think for me, really, the question here is that in gathering the notes, is I do rely on HARP to make decisions because I am not the expert in this realm. And what I fear myself is to set a precedent that we are able to evaluate economic hardship and at the same time, kind of keeping the structure and the integrity of a district, like you're saying, that's people have kept together since 1960s. So I don't think that at this time it's my proper decision to evaluate that hardship of the economics with kind of all the consistencies that they're trying to make at the same time. What I would suggest myself is if this is a conversation that council wants to continue with HARB itself, then maybe that is something that we should have them kind of guide us through how we can effectively kind of balance our own kind of decision making of finances with their recommendations, because I've been seeing kind of this come up throughout my year, that maybe it's just we need educated on that process. But right now at this time, I stand on my second just because I don't want to set a precedent and evaluate that myself.
Sure, it is a challenging precedent to make. I will say aloud, Mr. Boas, I don't know your particular economic situation, but I do know that there are, since much of the HARB consists of Vine Street, or much of Vine Street is in the HARB, I know for a fact that there are persons living there who simply could not afford to repair their roof. If it was an additional $8,000 more expensive. And I'm not sure that there are always adequate resources to make up that difference. But I'll say that aloud. I'll remind council that there is a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. So unless there is a modification, this is what we're voting on right now. I suppose there's also the option to table the item at hand if somebody wants to make a motion in that direction. But there's a motion to be resolved. So if there are no other council comments, I'll hold a moment for comments from the public.
Mr. President, if I may.
Of course.
Simply, councilors, to say that HARB makes its recommendations on very narrow parameters, and those are whether the alterations that are proposed are within the Department of Interior, are acceptable by the Department of Interior standards. So they do not consider economic hardship or other things unless economic hardship is something that's a part of the application. So there are other factors that can be considered by council, but that is why that they're a recommending body. They're making a recommendation to you based on those Department of Interior standards. And if you care to consider other factors, that's a part of your decision rather than theirs.
That is absolutely the case, and thank you for that reminder, Mr. Harris. I'm not seeing any raised hands for public comment.
Mr. President.
Councilor Bakay.
Before we proceed, could Mr. Harris just give us the once over on the direction of the vote, because sometimes these get into double negative, and I want to be absolutely sure that we're all on the same page.
My understanding, thank you, Councilor Bakay, and forgive me, Mr. Harris. We are currently voting on a motion to uphold the HARB's recommendation, that is to deny Mr. Boas's application. So when I vote is a vote to deny the application, and a nay vote is a vote in the other direction.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Nay.
Ms. Bakay.
No.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
President Smith Waddell.
No. So where does that leave us? I'm sorry.
That's a vote of 3-2 with the motion to uphold the recommendation failing.
Okay, Mr. Boas, it looks like you have your roof, and we have a possibly contentious discussion to have with the HARB moving forward. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you so much I'm very happy. I just want to say that, you know, I've been a single person living in this neighborhood, and just like everybody else, I live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm at the point now that I'm getting ready to retire. And this was weighing on me heavily because I thought for sure I was going to have to start taking money out of retirement to do the roof. So I thank you very much. And I also want to say something else that evidently was not in the notes from Harb or from the committee meeting, that I walked around our neighborhood last week in the rain on a Sunday before the meeting, and I noticed most of the homes and the garages in the neighborhood had asphalt shingles. And I felt that what I was told was, when certain groups of buildings entered Harb, that the people that owned those buildings were allowed to decide what they wanted to keep and what they wanted to change in order to stay with the Harb recommendations. So the asphalt roofs was something that the people wanted to keep. And Harb accepted their homes into the historic district with the asphalt roofs. And that's why I was really kind of like upset that, you know, there wouldn't be any possible exceptions. But I really thank you guys for your time. And I'm very happy for the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boss. Pardon me. So that brings us to heading B, or subheading B, ordinances for final passage, administration bill number 12, 2020. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance amending the City of Lancaster Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance in order to incorporate certain text changes that include the protection and preservation of natural resources in the purpose statement, provide for the deferral of land development approvals in certain cases, reduce paper submissions, require a community benefit survey, improve lighting standards to limit glare and light pollution, incorporate native vegetation, landscaping species selection, and prohibit invasive species, require street trees all along public streets for all subdivision and land developments, encourage tree planting and preservation, broaden the requirement for environmental impact studies, integrate best practices for bicycle and pedestrian planning, and improve administration of the ordinance and improve consistency with other city ordinances. The title, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
It is for final passage. Great, good. I always trip myself up there. We have a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. My favorite. Motion is second. Councilor Craig.
After that title, there really isn't a whole lot to say. The title covers the bulk of what would be addressed in the amendment. If Chris or Douglas would like to add more to the title, have at it.
Good evening, councilors. I'll just add that these amendments do support a number of strategic plans that have been adopted over the last couple of years, including the updated green infrastructure plan, the urban canopy tree plan that you recently adopted, and the active transportation plan. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions on the matter.
I don't have any. So we'll wait for the public.
Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
and President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. All right, that brings us to subheading C, ordinances for first reading. Administration Bill number 13, 2020. Mr. Harris, whenever you're ready.
An ordinance amending the termination dates of the COVID-19 outdoor dining ordinance and COVID-19 outdoor retail ordinance, both adopted by City Council of the City of Lancaster in response to the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'll hear a motion.
It's a first reading, Mr. President.
It is. I just talked about this. Good Lord. All right, council comments. Anybody? Mr. Campbell or Delphs, with the understanding that we're essentially just extending these changes to be indefinite until we see a light at the end of the tunnel with the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there anything else you feel compelled to add?
Not substantially, except that even though the retail aspect of this ordinance has not been utilized very much, we do continue to offer the opportunity for retailers, especially as we approach holiday season and other parts of the calendar year, as an option to be able to conduct retail enterprises in a safer manner during COVID.
Much appreciated, Mr. Campbell. Thank you. Okay, council comments. And from the public, though at this stage there are 7 of you, and I appreciate your fortitude. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Moving on to the next bill for first reading, Mr. President.
Okay, hold on. I need to recalibrate myself. I'm going to get this one of these. It'll be like the day that I'm leaving council that I'll get this right. Yes, we are moving on to Administration Bill number 14, 2020, Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the Lancaster City Council amending Chapter 300 of the Lancaster City Code zoning map to change the zoning classification for the property located on College Avenue, tax parcel number 335-76-989-00000 from RO, High Density Residential Office Institutional, to R4, Residential High Density Dwellings and Commercial Services. The title, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Craig?
Motion to approve?
Oh, this is a first reading.
Oh, well, see, there you go. You're not in that boat alone, Council President. Okay. So understanding that this ordinance is going to rezone that particular area so that it will include, this is a question, I think, Chris, to rezone that area so that it could incorporate commercial and businesses, as well as residential homes, multifamily. True?
Yes, true, but I would like to just emphasize perhaps a different element of the zoning change. As we had talked about, maybe just to start by way of process, as we noted, this is the first reading for the rezoning of this particular property at 213 College Ave. We first spoke about it last week at Council Committee. This particular zoning amendment was brought before the County Planning Commission yesterday. Just for your information, it was recommended for approval. The zoning district itself is currently RO. The amended district would become R4. And you are right, Councilor Craig, that that district would permit certain commercial and institutional uses, but really the emphasis of the R4 district is to provide the ability for multifamily. And this, as a reminder for perhaps others in the public who are tuning in tonight, this is the phase 1 of the affordable housing component connected to the redevelopment of the UPMC site. So the 213 College Avenue, when it moves to the R4 district, it puts it in, it provides a better underlying zoning to allow for the affordable housing multifamily development to move ahead. And as we talked about last week, one of the reasons why this rezoning is important is it is a necessary requirement for HDC Mid-Atlantic, the developer, the affordable housing developer, does have a requirement to rezone the property before they submit their application for low-income housing tax credits, which would make this affordable housing project possible at this location at 213 College Ave. So just wanted to back up a little bit and contextualize, but yes, that is generally the purpose behind the change.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Council comments or comments from the public?
My comment or question is just logistical, is that the next reading for when it's up for final passage will also be a zoning hearing. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, Councilor Bakay, that's correct. Today is the first reading, and then November 24th, we are scheduled for an official public hearing for the zoning change. That would also be the second reading, essentially at the same time. And at that point, it would be up to council if they elect to vote on the matter or not.
Okay, great. Thank you, and we'll get into it on the 24th. Moving right along. Administration Bill number 15, 2020. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. An ordinance increasing the indebtedness of the city of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, by the issue of a guaranteed revenue note in the maximum principal amount of $11.2 million for the construction of various structures and facilities to improve the city's wastewater conveyance system, fixing the form, dates, interest, and maturity thereof, making a covenant for the payment of the debt service on the note, providing for the filing of the required documentation with the Department of Community and Economic Development to incur and exclude additional debt of the governmental unit, providing for the appointment of a sinking fund depository for the note, providing for the authorized signatories and authorizing execution, sale, and delivery thereof. And again, this is for a first reading.
Thank you. Somebody has to look out for us. Sorry. Oh gosh, I've lost my agenda. I believe this would go to Councilor Soto. Councilor Soto's not here. I'm here. Great. Any council comments? From the public? Okay, we'll get into it on the 24th, which brings us to subheading D, resolutions. We begin with Administration Resolution number 52, 2020. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster amending the schedule of fees for the review of subdivision and land development plans and for the inspection and improvements installed in accordance with the approved plans as provided for in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code and the City of Lancaster Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance.
All right, I'll hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. So I looked at this documentation and I was like thoroughly confused, but after conversation, I think I got it a little bit. So my understanding is that these fees are going up, some more than others, and then basic understanding is that so that the taxpayer don't incur the excess. How'd I do?
Councilor Craig, I think that that was accurately stated. And yes, currently we are not recouping all of the costs that it takes to review the applications as thoroughly as we do. We strive for a high level of customer service for applicants of all abilities. Some require more time from us than others, some more able than others. And so we try to be as thorough as possible about the staff that spend time on these projects. As you can see, there are a lot of staff that are involved in the land development review process because we really need to get it right the first time. So yes, you're absolutely right. The developers would bear the costs of this rather than taxpayers subsidizing that.
Yay. Good. Any other questions from council? Go for the public and President Waddell.
Anybody from the public? Chris, DJ, Vince? I shouldn't call Vince Vince. I should call Vince Professor or Doctor. My apologies, Professor Felici. But either way, going once, going twice. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution number 53, 2020. Mr. Harris.
Resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving a certain project to be undertaken and financed by the Lancaster Higher Education Authority on behalf of Harrisburg Area Community College, declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people in the area served by the facilities of Harrisburg Area Community College to have such a project undertaken and financed by the authority.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I believe this is yours, Councilor Baker.
Correct. Okay, so we discussed this at committee last week. So the Higher Education Authority was created to allow the city to act as a financing agent for eligible institutions. In this case, this is Harrisburg Area Community College, and this is to allow them to refinance bonds that were originally issued in 2011. They'll get some interest savings, they'll address some capital projects, and I think the most important piece of this is this doesn't indebt the city in any way. Or make liable the city in any way for any of the debt. Mr. Hopkins, if there's anything I missed or got wrong.
Not a thing.
Okay, perfect. All I got.
Council comments. From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. All right. That brings us to Administration Resolution number 54, 2020. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster to authorize the administration to sell the 2020 tax claims, the anticipated 2021 tax claims, and the anticipated 2022 tax claims to the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Lancaster on such terms and conditions as approved by the mayor and the city solicitor.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you. So in addition to what was noted in the title, this allows us to sell our tax claims and anticipated tax claims to the redevelopment authority. And as we discussed in committee, what this means is this process will allow us to recoup those dollars much faster, but also not impact the property owners in the process that they would normally go through to collect those owed taxes. I'll leave it to Mr. Hopkins to get into the intricacies of how it's sold, who it goes to, who handles it, all of those things.
You don't really want me to get into the intricacies of that, do you? So the very short story is we have done this on an annual basis since I believe 2008 or 2009. We've done these resolutions on a every 3-year cycle. And so this one would cover and authorize the sale of tax claims from this calendar year and then the next 2 calendar years. Just for sort of context, the amount that we gained from the sale of the tax claims in 2018 was $876,000. 2019 was $958,000, and 2020 was $1,033,000. So it's been a little bit more each year. Some of that's a reflection of changes in the millage rate, so more taxes being levied, and so a higher amount being delinquent at the end of the year. And in other cases, just a matter of how many delinquent tax claims are there. So how many individual property owners didn't pay their taxes in a given year that got turned over for the sale. So I would expect if we go forward with this for the coming year that we'll probably have a higher total in 2021, only because I expect that we will have some property owners not being able to pay their taxes during 2020 due to economic impact of the pandemic.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Comments?
Sorry.
Oh, good.
No, just that was all that I had.
Great. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to Administration Resolution number 55, 2020. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving and authorizing the filing of a 32nd year certified local government grant application with the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, Bureau for Historic Preservation, in an amount not to exceed $12,000 to be used for historic preservation program purposes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. But this one is Councilor Craig. Go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. So the city has filed for this grant for 31 years, this being the 32nd year, and has been recertified as a CLG. This grant will be used by the city for expenses in compliance with the guidelines of the CLG. Within the time frame, April 21st, 2021 to August 30th, 2022 program year. Lancaster City applied for this grant for 31 years and it has been beneficial to the city in the preservation of Lancaster's important historical resources. That's all I have.
Okay, council comments from the public. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. Okay, and I believe that brings us to our final resolution of the evening, Administration Resolution number 56, 2020. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting a multimodal transportation fund grant of $871,000 from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to be used for South Queen Street pedestrian enhancements.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and it's Councilor Soto, which means it's me. Mr. Campbell, is there anything we need to know here before moving the resolution along?
Yes, I think I'd like to just make the council and the public aware of why and how important this particular area is. This project includes curb bump outs, green infrastructure, crosswalk enhancements, and traffic signal modifications to calm traffic and improve pedestrian safety for pedestrian crossings South Queen Street and South Prince Street intersection in the area of Carter-McCrae Elementary School. These improvements are proposed at South Prince and Farnham and South Queen Street intersections with Farnham, Church and Conestoga, Howard and Strawberry, and Andrew Streets. This is a high pedestrian crash area, a focus area from the Vision Zero plan, and surrounding a school. So this is one of the first projects we are trying to advance based on the Vision Zero plan.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Do I have any other council comments?
Only that driving on this stretch of road every day could not be more clear the need to have these improvements. So I'm glad that we'll be taking this very first step of this project.
Thank you.
Great. From the public. All right, hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Mr. Garcia Molina.
Aye.
And President Smith Waddell.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to our second public comment period. Reserved for those items not on the agenda. Would anybody like to address council at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the report of the mayor. Mayor Sirachi.
I have no report tonight. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Mayor. That brings us to the report of the President of Council. That's me. I also do not have a report this evening. Council comments.
If I may, Mr. President?
Of course.
Just a reminder to the small businesses in Lancaster that have been impacted by COVID-19 that Recovery Lancaster, which is a fund by the Lancaster Chamber and the EDC, has opened their phase 3 of applications for loan and grant funding. So if you are a small business, feel free to go to their website at recoverylancaster.com to apply for that. So just wanted to make that announcement.
Great. As is relevant to a great many people, before we meet again as a council, not this Friday, but next Friday will be the Extraordinary Give. It's of course Lancaster County's largest giving day, and for the three of you that are on the call and anybody watching on YouTube, just the important part is that nonprofits in this community, which do a lot of good, work in our community, have been struggling as much as anybody else, any other business, any other individual. So if you have the capacity in you to be charitable at this time, now is a good time to do it. I know some organizations wait the whole year and focus their fundraising on this event. But just wanted to take an opportunity to say that. Are there any other council comments?
Mr. President, if I may.
Mr. Harris.
I don't know if you saw it, but there was an email that was sent earlier today in which the city is holding, the Employee Recognition Committee of the city is having food trucks at city facilities this week. I was provided with vouchers for each of you to partake of the food truck that will be at City Hall on Thursday between noon and 2. And if you'd like to make use of those vouchers, I will be here in City Hall and I will be happy to provide those to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I'll be
no, it's
sure
good.
to get
It's
my
a
waffle
great,
taco.
yeah. It's also a great opportunity to recognize, of course, that we have the best employees of any small city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So if any of you happen to be watching this on YouTube instead of, good God, enjoying your evening with your families, I'm sorry, but thank you for being who you are and doing the work that you do. Okay. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good
night, everyone.
Good night.